Hey guys, I want to welcome you to my leadership class. This is an exciting opportunity for PCA students, and I'm humbled and I'm privileged to be with you as we walk through these courses together. You know, the first step is the one that you've taken to sign up for this course and to understand how to become the best leader that you can become. As we look at the purpose of the class, you know, my goal for you is that you can discover your leadership ability, your leadership preferences, how you're designed, how you were made to lead, and then also your calling, to be able to pursue that and become the best version of yourself that God created you to be. You know, here at PCA, our overall mission is to help students to seek God's truth and equip them with the tools for a lifetime of learning. And so what I want to do for you is I want to equip you with the tools that you need to become a great leader, both here on campus and outside of these walls. You know, when you think about the definition of leadership, it's actually changed over time. There was a time when leadership was about forcing people to do what you want them to do, maybe against their will. And we've seen examples of that. Then it became more about influencing people, even servant leadership. How can you serve and lead and do that well? And now we've come to a time where it's about relationships, building relationships with people and getting to know them and making sure that they know that you care about them personally, not just trying to manipulate them into doing what you want them to do. You know, there's a lot of definitions, and in a little while I'm going to ask you to define leadership for yourself. But one of the best definitions I've seen is leadership is a process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. You know, a good indication of good leadership, if you want to know whether or not you're a leader, just look behind you and see if anyone's following. Because if not, then it's just a lonely walk. But if so, then that could be exciting. And so in order for you to be able to have followers, we want to equip you with the tools that you need to lead on campus and outside of these walls. You know, what does the Bible say about leadership? And we'll talk about that some in this class too. I think we have the perfect example of leadership and what that looks like, right? In Jesus Christ. He came to serve and not to be served. He came to be a servant. And so what does that look like for us as we serve, as we lead, as we go to put this into action? Well, some of the things that you can expect to learn from this course are just maybe some practical applications. You know, how can you apply this immediately? How can you apply this at school? How can you apply this at home? How can you apply this on your teams? We'll give you some examples of how to do that and how to do it immediately. Another thing that we want to give to you are the habits, right? The habits of leaders. I call them the habits of excellence. And one of the things I'm excited to share with you is a book. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And so we'll go through all 7 of those habits. You know, it starts with personal leadership. We have to lead ourselves well, and that starts with taking responsibility. It starts with being proactive and not reactive. And so we'll walk through the habits that will make you an effective leader for yourself. But then we'll also get into the habits of how to be an effective leader of others. You know, a good place to start there is seek first to understand, then be understood. And so we'll talk about habits and what habits make effective leaders. We'll also talk about mental models. And you might say, well, what's a mental model? Well, a mental model is just a framework to see things and understand the world around us, right? We have a Christian worldview, and so that's the lens that we see things through. And so with these models, it just helps us, especially when we have to make choices and decisions. You know, one of the models we'll talk about in one of the future chapters is second order thinking. You know, a lot of times we make choices based on just the immediate effect. But sometimes we don't consider the second effect and the third effect and what it's going to look like down the road. And so we want to think about second order thinking. Another mental model and another example is the map is not the territory. You know, we have these maps in our minds of what things look like, and so we operate with these maps as we go through life, as we navigate life, but sometimes our maps aren't accurate. And the map actually isn't an exact duplication of the territory. And so we have to take that into account when we're making decisions, when we're making choices, and as we walk through life. So those are just some of the things that you can look forward to learning about in this class. So we'll have some practical applications, some habits that you can apply, and also some mental models. You know, one of the first things that I'm going to ask you to do is to do this. I want you to define leadership. I want you to define leadership. I want you to type this out. I want you to write it out. That'll be one of your first assignments, is to define leadership. And the way I want you to do that is I want you to look at 3 other sources. So find 3 other sources that are not dictionaries. So I want you to find this from articles. I want you to find it from books. I want you to dig for this and look for definitions, and then come up with your own definition of leadership. The other thing I want you to do, and you'll find this at the bottom of the page that you can click on, is I want you to do our 9-dot test. It's a 9-dot test. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to follow the instructions, and then on those 9 dots, you're going to have to try to connect those 9 dots without taking your pencil or pen off of the sheet. Now, it's going to be challenging, and you're going to have to think outside the box just a little bit. But those are going to be your first 2 assignments. So as I leave you, I want to leave you with this quote. I love this quote by Teddy Roosevelt. It's the man in the arena. It says this: "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Well, congratulations, you stepped into the arena, and I'm looking forward to doing this with you. So let's go together and lead well. I'll see you soon.